That day, the NASA control room had no noise, only tension. Numbers were moving across giant screens, engineers were silent, and the air felt heavy, the kind of silence that appears when even the world's most advanced space agency cannot find what is wrong. The mission's launch window was slowly closing. Calculations had already been repeated. Simulations had been run again and again. Still, nothing was matching. This was not a small project. America's reputation was on the line. And at that exact moment, in the far corner of the room, a man was quietly cleaning the floor. No white lab coat, no badge that said engineer. He was not part of any meeting. He was simply doing his job. His responsibility was to keep the floors clean, empty the trash, and leave the room without being noticed. No one paid attention to him because at NASA, people expect genius to wear suits and carry titles. But this is where the most dangerous part of the story begins, because the mistake that NASA's top minds could not see, that mistake was noticed by him. And the moment he stopped and looked again at the chalkboard, everything at NASA was about to change, even though no one in that room had any idea that the solution was not on the screens, but inside the mind of the man everyone was ignoring. Inside NASA, pressure is measured in seconds, and every second is worth millions of dollars. Engineers rewrote equations, cross-checked values, and still one variable kept refusing to match. A delayed launch did not just mean money loss, it also meant international embarrassment. That is why no extra sound was allowed in the room. And inside that silence, the man placed his mop to the side. For a few seconds, he stared at the chalkboard, not just looking, but actually reading it. Numbers, angles, an equation repeating again and again. He was not a scientist, but numbers were not strange to him either. Life had never given him a lab coat, but math was not new to his mind. He quietly thought, something here is off. But the problem was not only the equation. The real problem was this. In a place like NASA, only certain people are allowed to ask questions, and he was not one of them. This is where the story becomes even more interesting. This was the moment when most people would stay silent. He could have finished his work, picked up his mop, and walked out of the room. And if he had done that, this story might have never existed. But he chose to stop, just for a few seconds, just to look at the numbers one more time. And in that short pause, he noticed something that NASA's most brilliant minds had already missed, an assumption that had quietly been accepted as correct, but wasn't. Now the question was no longer what the mistake was. The real question was whether he should speak or stay quiet. Because if he was wrong, it would not just be embarrassing, he would instantly become invisible. But if he was right, then NASA's history was about to gain a chapter no textbook ever talks about. And right here, this story stops being only about science. It becomes a story about courage. Because sometimes, the biggest risk is not the launch itself. The biggest risk is speaking up when the entire world is not ready to listen to you. The man took a deep breath, pushed his mop aside, and took a small step toward the control room. At that moment, not a single NASA engineer had any idea that the next sentence they were about to hear would shake their entire calculation system from its foundation. Chapter 2. The man did not raise his voice. He did not interrupt anyone loudly. He did not pretend to be confident. He simply stood there for a moment, watching engineers move fast, watching time slip away. His heart was beating faster than his thoughts. This was NASA. One wrong word here could end his job forever. But staying silent felt worse. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm, almost hesitant. He pointed toward the chalkboard and said something very simple. He said that one assumption in the calculation looked wrong. At first, no one reacted. A few engineers did not even turn around. Others looked annoyed. In that room, equations came from experts, not from someone holding a mop. One engineer finally looked at him and asked who he was. The man answered honestly. He said he worked maintenance. The room went even quieter. For a second, it felt like the conversation would end right there. But then something unexpected happened. A senior engineer, tired and frustrated, decided to listen. Not because he believed the man, but because they had already tried everything else. The engineer walked to the board and looked closely at the part the man was pointing to. At first glance, it looked correct, but then he checked it again and again. Slowly, his expression changed. The room began to shift. Other engineers moved closer. Calculators came out. Screens refreshed. The same equation was tested with the assumption removed, and suddenly, the numbers started to align. The mismatch disappeared. The room that was filled with tension moments ago now felt electric. No one spoke, but everyone understood what had just happened. The problem that delayed the launch was not a complex failure. It was a small human assumption that no one questioned, except him. Now all eyes were on the man who was supposed to be invisible. Someone asked him how he noticed it. He explained quietly that he used to love math. Life took him in a different direction, but numbers never left him. He said he had seen similar mistakes before, where something was assumed correct just because everyone believed it was. The engineers did not laugh. They did not doubt him anymore. Instead, they nodded, because the math was proving him right. Within minutes, the launch calculations were corrected. The mission was back on track. Millions of dollars were saved. International embarrassment was avoided. And all of it happened because one person decided not to walk away. The man stepped back, unsure of what to do next. He picked up his mop again, ready to return to his corner. But this time, something was different. For the first time that day, someone told him to wait, because NASA had just realized something important. The solution did not come from authority. It came from attention. And the most unexpected voice in the room had just changed everything. Chapter 3. The moment NASA never forgot. The launch went ahead. The rocket lifted off exactly on time, cutting through the sky as if nothing had ever gone wrong. To the world, it looked like another perfect NASA mission. No headlines mentioned the tension. No cameras showed the silence in a control room. But inside NASA, everyone remembered, because they all knew how close the mission came to failure. After the launch, the man was called back into the room. Not to clean, to talk. Senior officials asked him questions, not about floors, but about numbers, about how he saw what others missed. That day did not turn him into a celebrity, and it did not rewrite history books. But it changed something deeper. NASA reviewed its systems. They changed how voices were heard. And the man who was once invisible was offered a future he never expected. This story is not about NASA being perfect. It is about listening, because intelligence does not always come with titles, and solutions do not always sit in the front row. Sometimes, the person who saves the mission is the one no one thinks to notice. So the next time you think your voice does not matter, remember this moment. One sentence, one decision to speak, and an entire mission was saved. If this real story made you see success differently, stay with this channel. More real human stories are coming, the kind that remind us that greatness can come from anywhere.